Pro so much.
Well, this is Mark Monlix, and this is another session of MasterMind. So you like your iPad Pro Touch?
Yeah, I use it so much, you know. I went to a meeting this morning of the Ocean County Long-Term Recovery Group. You know, we've been recovering from Hurricane Sandy out here.
Oh, wow.
And we're still in the process of it. And there we go. And I'm part of various emergency radio networks and emergency response committees. And can I share this, Mark, with you?
Sure, please do.
It's not up to some of you are all abilities, but it's what I did. So, as I like to say, I'm the best I've got. So. So we just brushed by another hurricane that could have got us here. Hermine was off our coast, and the people were reflecting on the fact that in the year 1900, on this day, in Galveston, they had a hurricane where 8,000 people died. So we lived through a lot of renewed anxiety about Sandy because we had such a here.
How many years has it been since Sandy now?
Well, in that yellow box I'm poking at here.
Oh yeah, 4 years.
It's 4 years on October 29th. And that's a big legal moment, it turns out, because on October 30th, anybody who hasn't started to get their property in shape could lose their certificate of occupancy. And so in one of the towns near me, there are more than 800 homes on a list where if the town chose, they could pull the certificates of occupancy for all of those on October 30th.
Wow. So
that's a big, yeah, they're not going to do it necessarily, but I mean, it potentially could put 800 families on the street in one day. So that was an interesting meeting, but I brought my iPad Pro with me, and I did find that it kept me engaged with the meeting, you know, pretty well. So I'll stop that share.
I was busier earlier today recording a couple of new episodes for Law and Artist with my friend Daniel Abraham. And I've been talking to some other friends of mine who are artist advocates. And there seems to be some, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is one senator is trying to put forward a bill, and he has a lot of creative professionals and creative professional organizations behind him, in which it would be to support a change in the Copyright Office in that they would be able to do small claims copyright. Right now, in order to do anything with the Copyright Office, you have to make a federal case of it because it's a federal thing. And the amount of lawyer fees involved and the amount of money involved, like an infringement could result like $180,000 per infringement. But there's also, you also have to get money to cover court costs and court fees. And if you didn't file correctly, that could be problematic. But anyway, if say a larger company infringed against you, well, they're going to throw every lawyer they have at you, and you need your lawyer, and it's going to be a long, dragged-out fight, maybe 10 years, and that's a
Right.
lot for any small person to go through, especially when most of the infringement that occurs can be settled for a relatively small amount. So what they're trying to do is to make it so that more people will see the worth of filing for copyright. As to, there's a big difference between filing for copyright and just having a copyright. Anyway, what this would allow people to do is, if your amount was under, say, $5,000 or 10,000, I mean, a relatively small figure, you're not looking to go headhunting with this infringement. As a matter of fact, the bulk of most infringements could be settled for a relatively low figure of just a few $1,000s.
Right.
So they're trying to pass this bill that would allow people to file a small claims copyright where things would be expedited and decisions made faster, and it would be more like a small claims court. And just the threat of something being expedited faster might actually get people to settle faster. But knowing that you don't have to deal with as much court costs, and then it won't be a long, drawn-out process, and the odds of you getting your figure, your money, that wouldn't really be a big incentive to having more independent creatives go out and file for copyright.
Right. Right. So does it look promising?
Well, hey, one senator trying to back a bill during an election year. Who knows how many? It's a Democrat, so it'd be nicer if we had more Democratic supports. But it's taken like 3 or 4 years just to get up to this point. But it's got a lot of. It's not just randomly put together. It was put together by a coalition of copyright officials, small businesses, and creative professional organizations.
Nice.
So people might decide to actually, this is something that they could possibly vote on both sides of the aisle. There's a fairly large movement among some Republicans for what's referred to as orphan works. Are you familiar with orphan works at all?
No.
Orphan works is, they would try to make it so that if you were a business and you found an image on the internet, that you could go ahead and use it after you've done a reasonable search to try and find the person who created that image. Forget that you can go to the Copyright Clearing Center and ask there, or that with Google search, you can practically drop an image in to find out where the creator of origin is. I mean, there's all these ways you can find out. But businesses just want to be able to grab more stuff freely off the internet, willy-nilly, and use it for their own advertising or promotion so that they don't have to create new stuff.
Right.
But this can be problematic. Let's say that you've done something. Most of the work that's done by graphic recordings or graphic facilitators are done on a full rights buyout, meaning that the client that hired you purchased the full rights. They're going to use that however they want to. And we get suitably compensated for that. I have no problem with that. But let's say, and you've signed the rights over in your contract. Let's say someone else grabs that image now, and they start using it, and it might be a competitor of your client, and they can say, oh well, Orphan Works said that we could go ahead and do that because we couldn't find you. I mean, how can you prove that they didn't search for you? So, and the reason Orphan Works hasn't been going through, I have a couple theories of why it hasn't been going through. People have been battling it pops up about every 5 years. And a lot of the professional advocacy groups go out there and fight against it. And one of the reasons it doesn't hold up is because of the 1976 Copyright Act. And in the 1976 Copyright Act, it was put into place that the copyright insignia, year, and name did not have to appear on any artwork in order for it to be copyrighted. Basically, anything you create at any time, that your conception of an idea is something that's copyrightable. You don't get any protection, really, and most people don't know this until you actually file for copyright. But you do get some protection. But they're just, but because people were getting ripped off, people were trimming. At the time, they were trimming off photographs where the copyright signature was and then reusing them. So that's why that law got passed back in 1976.
Yeah, right.
I'm a big fiend about copyright. I've been following the subject for years.
Yeah, so you probably know stuff about Lawrence Lessig a lot then.
Oh, tell me about this.
Well, Lawrence Lessig is the guy behind the Creative Commons.
Oh, that guy, yeah. Now, I don't have any problem with people doing stuff for Creative Commons. I just don't adhere to their philosophy.
Right. Yeah, he came to a class I was teaching once. He came to our university, and somehow he ended up sitting in on my organizational consulting class. And I was trying to get him to talk about boards and organizations he's worked with, but he's pretty focused on his Creative Commons stuff at the time. So that's what he wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I know several people who participate in Creative Commons. They like the idea. They like the attitude. I beg your pardon. But as a person that earlier in my career, when I wasn't doing full rights buyout, I was selling limited licensing use, and it's how I made my money. And the idea of not having access to that, it used to be that back in the day, illustrators would make 20% of their income off of reuse fees. I have this, give you an example that I mention all the time. I have this illustration of a smiling, sunny face. And I initially did it for the Chelan County Tourism Board. And here's how you determine licensing. Quantity, there's a quantity run of 50,000. Media, it was going to be print. Medium, it was going to be a brochure. It was going to be in that brochure, it was going to be on the inside rather than the outside with several other illustrations. It was going to be distributed nationally because it was a tourism brochure. And the last thing is the time period. It was going to be a 1-year promotion. And I got paid $600 for it, and I was happy for the money. It was a good project. Well, they came back to me, or rather, the designer came back to me about a year and a half later, and they want to reprint the brochure. So a standard reuse fee that I had written in my contract, and which most people had written in their contract at the time, because there used to be a professional organization of artist reps, and they kind of establish a standard that if nothing was changing in those 5 categories, if they were remaining the same, but the artwork was pre-existing for that usage, that a reuse fee would be 35%. Now, reuse fee can be anything that you want it to be, but that became sort of like a standard so that people could figure it out. And when you were negotiating, um, it wasn't across all the platforms, um, but it was a way to go. Anyway, so I got paid a 35% reuse fee. And then the image I kept receiving requests for the image. And they would be new usages. And sometimes they'd be reusages of that new usage. And this went on for years. I made about $17,000 off that one image.
Nice, nice.
So that's how you can make money licensing your work. And for me, the whole concept of Creative Commons, just doing it and letting anyone use it after the fact, to me, that is fiscal suicide. So.
Right, right. So what year was that smiley face thing worked out?
Oh, when did I do that? That was in the 90s. Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, is it still, could that happen again now?
Oh, what do you mean? Could I get?
Could that reproduce itself today, or is the context so different?
I still own the license to it, if that's what you mean. And so no one's used it for a number of years. So I could see sometimes when you license something in one category, you can't license it in another category. An example would be greeting cards. A standard greeting card contract is usually over a period of 4 years. And then if they haven't reused the image after 4 years, you get back the rights to go out and sell that greeting card to somebody else. Greeting cards are kind of a different ballywick, though, because you're doing them on speculation, meaning you submit work and the greeting cards decide whether or not they want to carry it. The last time I checked into that, which was years, the prices might have changed, but at the time, and this was in the 90s, it was $500 for a full, for an advance royalty payment of a print run of 50,000. And rather than doing a 35% reuse fee, it was always an advance payment of $500 if they wanted another 50,000. The thing is that most greeting cards, once they print out 50,000, unless that greeting card sold quickly, they're not going to reorder another 50,000. But they want to keep their options open and hold on to that artwork for 4 years just in case those 50,000 finally do sell out. Then they can make you an offer, make a counter proposal, maybe drop down the price or ask. Sometimes they'll try to counter with a lower price, but you can always say, no, I'm going to go ahead and sell this again someplace else for 500 or whatever. Come up and make your payment. I like when people. I often get I don't know if this happens to you a lot, but on at least a weekly basis, if not a couple times a week, I get approached by someone saying, "Mark, I love your artwork. I would love to have you do some drawings for a children's book for me." And I immediately say, "Okay, I need a down payment of $5,000, and then I'll probably need an advance royalty payment on top of that." And they just blanch, and I explain to them, no, let's talk about this realistically. A children's book is a minimum of 24 pages. So let's say on each page I'm going to have to do a rough comp, a thumbnail of the layout, a rough comp, then a type, then a color image, but let's just go to the type stage. Thumbnail, comp, and type. Okay, so I've done those 3 things, and at each stage of those, there's a review process that we have to go through. You think I can, and let's say that I get all of that done within 1 hour. Okay. Somehow magically we get that one page completed in 1 hour. You do that for 24 pages. My hourly rate is 200. So that's, pretty much 5,000 right there just to get it up to the concept, the sketch level. And then I want to be paid more. And they said, well, can't we just go 50-50? And I said, no, because I don't know, you don't have a publisher lined up for this. If you take something to a publisher, most publishers only want to see it at the sketch stage with 4 pages complete and the cover art complete. And sometimes they don't even want to see the whole thing sketched out. They just want to see the first 10 pages and have a storyline for the rest. That's how you submit for children's books. But you don't do the full book because they might like the story but not the artist. And then suddenly the artist is left out in the lurch when they change over artists. So you need to have in your contract a buyout clause for when they switch to another artist. And they say, no, we're planning on printing this and promoting this ourselves. And I said, well, that's even worse because I can't, how do I know you're going to make money off this? How do I know you're going to be making sales? It's not going to blast off the internet. Doing a 50-50 proposition is insane for me. I need to be paid for my time. So I explained to them, okay, I'm going to be getting a percentage of the royalties, but this is an advance royalty payment. And so basically I get the royalty payment up front from my 2. And then after you've sold off, say, quantity run of 10,000 and that pays it off, or however many books you need to do to pay me off on that, then my percentage starts coming in on a quarterly basis on your sales. When you start hitting someone who's dreaming about doing a book with some hard numbers and some real facts, they disappear immediately.
Right.
And I've had, I got this all down in a Word document and I just copy and paste it and send it to people. And I say, well, let me know when you're ready to move and I'll be happy to take that $5,000. I'll even, if, $5,000 is a bit much for you, I'll do a payment plan. Just send me $1,000 right now, and then we'll do a payment plan where you're sending me, $200 a month, and then you just pay me off eventually. But you do realize that all the rights will revert back to me if you miss a payment. I've done that many times, especially with clients that want to come to me for a logo. And I tell them what my logo price is, which is between, $1,500 and $5,000 for a logo for a small, from a mom and pop to a small company. And they kind of go, oh, I can't do that. I only have $300. I said, that's slush fund money. That's what you found in your closet when you looked. That's not what a logo is worth, So, but here's the plan, I'll put me on retainer and I'll put you on this payment plan. And that is what saves me through 3 recessions, is I have all these clients who initially couldn't afford me outright, but they would hire me to do a project. I get a nice little tiny sum for a net 30 on the first part of delivery, and then they would be mailing me these checks. So when all my friends were, not getting any work for like 6 months at a time, I had all these little checks coming in all the time that were, I still got little checks coming in all the time. It really saved. I went from the whole feast and famine thing, and it totally broke that cycle.
Nice. I suspect, Mark, though, that most creatives are nowhere near as business savvy.
I was a member of a group. I am a member of the group called the Graphic Artists Guild, but there was a local group in the Seattle area called the Society of Professional Graphic Artists. And I loved their luncheons. Back when they would have their luncheons every month, I'd go in and I learned all these tricks from the professionals who started doing it in the 50s after World War II. And I tell you, what I learned there really saved my bacon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to tell. I do this class every few years for various colleges called Freelancing 101.
Hmm.
And basically I'm trying to write a book about it. The book always gets on the side burner. I originally started this MasterMind group as a group of people who wanted to get a book written within a year. I was actually working on it for quite a bit because of that. Because I'd come to one of these meetings and I think, oh my God, I got to get some work done on that book so I can at least report in and didn't say I haven't worked on anything. But I'm sure that you must do the same thing when you get someone coming to you. They want to say, well, how do I start out in this business?
Yeah, I'm in a little different place, I think. I have a full-time job that, keeps my mortgage going and puts food on my table. So I incorporate the graphic element, but I got through the IFEP website, I got a call from a news organization that does local news promotion. They get grants from democracy foundations and news organizations, and then they hold meetings in communities where they get local journalists together with community leaders and do meetings. And right, so I did one for them just for free, just to get them to see what it was about. And then they've been paying me $200 for the other doing a meeting. But I have not been, I don't have a contract thing about who owns this or what can you do with it, or.
Oh, wow.
And
well, you really should get a contract together, because the way copyright law works is, since you're the creative professional that took the idea and put it into a tangible form. So the onus is on you to transfer that copyright. And the only way you can license or transfer a copyright is in writing. And if they don't have that, then they're basically infringing.
I wonder how Jessamy, did you see the post about Jessamy G's work?
No, I didn't. I missed that.
Let me share this with you, because it's really, it'd be a nice conversation. I don't know how where's my share button here? Screen share. And try this.
Is this on the Graphic Facilitation Facebook page? Or is this on the IFBP forum page?
Somehow it's shared. Do you see the big?
Oh yeah, I see
thing?
it now. I'm going to write down the address. Oh.
Yeah, okay. So she did this thing for the National Catholic Education Group, whatever. And let me get. Are you still seeing it?
Yes.
With me scrolling, right? So she did this beautiful stuff for them. Should be coming up there. Do you see one?
Yes, I do. But make sure, whenever you want to make sure that your image is on the screen, you need to say something, because what happens is on Google Hangouts, it will switch over to the screen where that has the most noise or where the person is talking. So when you say, hey, can you see this? And I say yes, suddenly everyone gets to see my face. But on the video, no one's seeing yours. So say something.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Jessamy did this, and there's a bunch of them, right? There's all of these, one, two, and these are up then on their website. They made a nice gallery of her stuff for them. But I don't see, when I look at these, I didn't see anywhere on it that it identified her.
Well, it depends on the agreement that she signed with them. If sometimes when I do work for large corporations, they for my ODI stuff, they don't want me putting my name on any of it. I might have my name appearing in the text format at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, along with the other facilitators, but on the artwork itself, they don't want to have my name there.
Right. So Jessamy doesn't appear on any of this, but they then put it up on their website, and it really. So if I wanted to use one of these in a talk, what would be my appropriate?
Well, you are lucky because you are a teacher.
Right.
And if you're presenting this in a non-commercial way for teaching purposes, it falls underneath the category of fair use. This is why, so teachers can show off pictures of things like the Mona Lisa or other great pieces of art or music or books. Otherwise, any type of education couldn't be done because every school would be paying licensing fees to whoever wrote the textbooks. So instead, things like photocopies, presentation, PowerPoint presentations, online things, little short handouts, things where you're providing an example where it's in context, as long as you're not selling it, as long as it's not like a paid course, then you're totally free and clear to use it as a teacher under fair use. That's pretty well established. But let's say that I was to take that and I was to show that as an example to one of my clients and say, yeah, I can do this. Well, first of all, it's not my work, it's their work. So that's impeding on a certain right. I'm also using it in a commercial advertising format, even though it's a personal presentation. That's still infringement. If I was a large infringement, would be if someone, let's say, another organization, a religious organization, not the Catholic. This Catholic organization decided to download these and print them on postcards and sell them as a pack. Well, that would be a definite form of infringement. That would be infringing all the way. But unless she has it written, and this is why you want to have something written with your client, where the rights were transferred, and also it has to be filed for copyright within 90 days of publication. If you haven't filed for copyright within 90 days of publication, the odds of you getting legal fees diminishes greatly. So when I do work for my clients, especially logos, things that are going to have a high if I have a client that's doing a full rights buyout, I let it be known in the contract that I'm filing for copyright and I'm signing over full rights usage to them, or they have the option or rather, I have it written in my contract that they have the option of filing for copyright on it, um, even though technically that's not the right way of doing it, because the the clients that have me sign their contracts where I'm submitting a SAL, that's pretty much a work for hire situation. And if it's a work for hire situation, the onus is on that company to provide or to go out and file for copyright. If, on the other hand, the client that I'm working for is using my contract, then the onus is on me because I'm selling full rights buyout, which is different than work for hire. Basically, they get the same stuff, but I'm in charge of filing for the copyright. And I always do that when I'm doing something like, say, a logo. I file for copyright and then sign over a full rights buyout to the client, or a transfer of copyright, and I get compensated for my time to do that. But if that isn't in place and infringement occurs, then you're really going to be stuck with a little bit of a legal battle because you don't have the impetus of legal fees backing up. Anyway, me and my friend Daniel, we talk about this stuff on our law and artist videos. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was such nice work that she did there, and
It's gorgeous work.
Yeah, and I thought, I could use that in some of the teaching that I do, some of the talks that I give. And but right, but it's interesting, right? So when I teach at the university, I'm being paid, but that's different.
Right. Yeah, that is different because you're in an education setting.
So when I gave my talk at IFEP, I was constantly sweat. I did not give my PowerPoint deck out because I used some things that are copyrighted in it. And I actually called the NTL, the National Training Labs, and I said, I want to use this diagram in your book. And they said, you can use it in the slide if you're only showing it at the talk, and you can make a photocopy of it for all the people who are at the talk.
But you can't put it up on any type of forum or website where people can download it and reproduce it themselves, right, because they're not the ones asking for permission, and they may not be educators.
Right, and so, but that's such a difficult thing because I give them I give them that photocopy.
But a photocopy, the likelihood of that photocopy being photographed again or printed off again is extremely low. Whereas a PowerPoint presentation, the resolution and quality of it is such, and it is also a different media commodity. Remember when I was talking about the 5 things that make up a licensing thing, and one of them was media?
Right.
So when they're talking about on-screen presentation, that's a form of digital media, but the time span for that, remember we're over here on the time span, is only for that presentation. So it's extremely limited exposure. The higher the exposure, the more value it has. Whereas, okay, so a photocopy, hey, that's something print. It's low resolution. It's a one-time thing. People pretty much know that that's going to be it. It's probably going to be tossed away once they get home and have researched it. The odds of it being implemented in any type of a publication later on is going to be extremely negligible. But if you put that online on the internet, now it's internationally accessible anywhere, and anyone can do any of those other things with it, and so you're leaving it open to infringement. So I completely understand that.
It's like Grove, I bought their template. PowerPoint templates.
Right.
So I can use them when I do my consulting.
That's right, because you basically bought a license into their product.
Right. So, but the other crazy part of that is if you go on Google Images, you can find them all.
Yeah, but they're not the same quality as the ones you have.
Yeah.
Also, anyone grabbing them online and trying to use them, they're infringing. You basically paid a worthwhile value for a worthwhile product. So it's not like you're not shafting anyone. You're doing everything right.
Right. I'm trying to. It's hard to. I read their thing, about, okay, here's how you can use this with a client, but you have to write their name on it first before you send it to them.
Right.
To fill out if you're doing a pre-meeting or something. You have to.
And by doing that, you're kind of time stamping it or identifying it. Remember when I was talking about the 1976 Copyright Act?
Right.
And how they were saying you don't have to have your name on it? Well,
Right.
they're trying to make it so that, yeah, by at least having their name on it, you can, let's say that the item that you sent to your client, if you hadn't put the client's name on it, and it starts going out there, it's got a high exposure and someone can start infringing on it because there's no name attached to it. However, people will usually go like this and back away if they see that there's a name attached to it, because not only do the person who's selling that service to you have an investment into it, but your client, because the information that they're going to be adding onto it also has an investment into it. So the more people that get attached to something or have their name attached to it, the more protected it's going to be.
Yeah, but your small claims thing is so important because it's easy for me to pull anything into my iPad Pro, and like Photoshop too, you can erase things, or I could erase a client's name off that.
Now, but you don't know some of the things that I know. Like, if you're a professional photographer, you can, for a very small fee, have a plugin on your Photoshop documents that Photoshop provides to you. And then what that does is it puts in a watermark. Now, this is a digital watermark. It does something to the pixels so that even if someone was to take, say, a picture of a cow, that you're a professional photographer, you've done this picture of a cow, and someone takes that picture of a cow and they put it through, they reverse it, they flip it, they put Abraham Lincoln's face on it, and then they run it through like 6 different filters so it looks the most bizarre thing in the world. Those pixels of that watermark are still embedded in that photograph. And if you were to do a search using the software, you could see who's infringing on it.
Yeah. So it's kind of a holographic concept because it would be even in the smallest parts.
One of the things I do is, once or so a year, I go in and I take my most popular images and I drag them onto Google image search, and I see where they pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone is using those images, I send, rather than sending them a cease and desist letter or anything scary, say, oh, you're a copyright infringer, I send them an invoice. And if they pay the invoice, fine. And if they don't pay the invoice, well, then I send them I send them 2 more invoices saying, hey, you used this. I got a record of your usage of it. You used it without permission. It's an infringement. Why don't you take this easy out? And it's only happened a couple times, but they'll pay it. They'd rather. I know this one artist named Anita Kuntz fantastic illustrator, just fantastic. And she, this was about 15 years ago, she found that somebody, a company in Mexico, was using her illustrations without her permission. You know how hard it is to file an international copyright claim? It is abysmally difficult. So she sent them an invoice, and they actually became an ongoing client with her. It worked out very well.
Right. So they were not intentionally or whatever. They were just careless.
Yeah, if you approach it with saying, hey, you were accidentally careless and you accidentally used this thing, and you say, but hey, I'm more than willing to work with you on this. Most people are very, very obliging, and you know, they might be a little red-faced about things, but they usually come across.
Huh. Good. Good.
Let's see. I am back from going to my storage unit where I was. I have a couple of bins that I take with me to comic book conventions when I sell my books and things. And I'm hitting the road tomorrow to go to Portland to do the Rose City Comic Con.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be 2 days of fun. My wife is currently in Spokane, so she's going to fly and meet me there. It's really nice because where we're staying is right next to where the big expo hall is, and the expo hall is right at the end of the train line that runs through Portland. It's got a pretty nice little train line that goes through downtown. It goes from the airport through downtown out to the convention center, so she'll just hop right on that, and it's a free ride for her all the way.
Nice. I like Spokane. Nice river walk in Spokane.
Oh, that river walk is terrific.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a cute little oddity store there called Boo Radley's. And right next to it is sort of like a kind of upscale yuppie furniture, kitschy type decoration place called Finch.
Uh-huh.
Both from To Kill a Mockingbird references. I just think it's pretty funny that they.
I don't know. Oh, good. Well, thanks for talking about fair use and all. That's helpful to me. I probably should think about. I mean, that's one of the things we were talking about with IFVP member value, is if we could put like a little repository of initial contract templates or something like that.
And it doesn't really need to be that extravagant.
Right, right.
Yeah, I would point and mention a link to my website, but my website's currently down right now. I'm transferring everything from one ISP to another ISP, but it's taking a lot longer than I thought it would.
So there might be a model template thing.
Well, I have 2 references I can put up online real quick. Let me grab my books here. Okay. Well, the first one is this is the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook, Pricing and Ethical Guidelines.
Oh, nice.
And you can pick up one of these for $35, or if you become a member of the Graphic Artists Guild, which is like a $200 fee, you'll get the book for free.
Huh.
But it has contracts and all sorts of forms for design, illustration, and it even has some basic pricing guidelines for, like, if you're needing to do something for let's say someone wanted to know how much a book cover would, what's the value on a book cover? What's the value of a magazine cover? What's the value for doing internal magazine illustrations? Anything of that particular nature. This will give you sort of like the rundown.
That's interesting.
On the low end prices. Now there's another book I have. I'm trying to locate it on my shelf.
Well, the Amazon lists that along with business and legal forms for graphic designers.
Oh yeah, that's the other book I have. And what's nice about that book is that it has a CD in the back with all the documents in various template formats, so you can just download them. When I created my contract, I took the guild contract, and over the years I've modified it and added more things just to make it extremely useful to me. And it's just one base contract that I use for nearly all my projects, and I don't do any work whatsoever without a contract. Either I have the client sign my contract, or I end up signing the client's contract.
Huh.
Well, it's like, I make this analogy all the time. It's like building a house. If you were an architect and someone came to you and they said, I want you to build me a house, you would have all sorts of questions. You'd say, where do you want me to build this house? How tall should it be? How many rooms? Do you want carpeting or wooden floors? And all they were responding back to you is, oh, don't mind any of that. Just get busy and start building me a house. It wouldn't take you too long before you decide to call 911 and have this guy picked up with a big net or something because he's nuts. And yet, a lot of creative professionals, they don't go through this process. They just say, oh, I want to hire you to do blank. And you say, oh, okay, fine, let's go do blank. And you don't have a blueprint or a game plan, and it all goes to hell. So a contract is nothing more than a blueprint of how you're going to get the project done.
Huh. This is good because, there was a big discussion on the Facebook Graphic Facilitators thing about ethics a while ago. And that's one of the projects we're thinking about working on with IFEP stuff is getting some kind of a process to work on ethics that are relevant to our particular work. I mean, this is kind of a good input on that. A lot of the ethics in the conversation on the facilitation thing was about poaching clients. So if I bring you to work with me on something and then all of a sudden I'm out and you're in, is that ethical?
What I actually have something that I do with the people that I work on like that. If I'm when I'm brought in, and this has happened several times over my career, where you're brought in as part of a team, and suddenly the person who was the lead on the team on the next project, he's not the lead, you're the lead. If someone else brings me in or introduces me to a client, and I get that client directly as a result of that person, I'm going to give that person 10% of my income from that client for the next year. That kind of eases the blow that maybe they still have that client, or maybe they don't. Maybe that was a troublesome client, they were just handing it off, or maybe for some reason now the client just prefers me. At least now, because of that business partnership, that other person, they're getting a little bit of some compensation for the initial work they did in establishing that connection.
Yeah, right.
And I've done that with, over the course of my career, dozens of artists. And sometimes the client only comes back once or twice, but I've had clients that they came back and they just gave me a pile of work. And meanwhile, my friend is, I'm writing them another check like every couple of weeks for the work that's coming in. But it's important to establish those business relationships ahead of time with people. And sometimes it's been on the honor system, but sometimes we also do it in writing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that's one way to kind of deal with the poaching is at least have a scenario that you can follow through or a protocol like that in place, so that you can follow up. I've belonged to a number of groups, and the group I mentioned first, the SBGA, they had the best code of ethics. That was they would provide a contract to their members, and on the back of the contracts was the code of ethics, so that when a client was working with this person, that person's code of ethics was on the back of the contract, and they could see, and it had some really straightforward things like, I'll have to pull that out, and maybe I should transcribe that and post it up on the Graphic Facilitators page.
I think you would be really appreciated for doing that. Yeah.
Anyway, sir, it is 6 o'clock.
All right. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here. So.
Oh, geez. So I'm going.
Right.
Hopefully, I'll be able to do this next week. Google is changing how they're doing things. They're not supporting on-air Hangouts anymore, where it can be recorded like this.
Uh-huh.
It might just be a Hangout where we all get together, and it's not, and people can't watch it later on. I might do that next week until I learn how to do YouTube Live. What they're trying to do is get people to do YouTube Live and move people over to videoing, recording straightly on YouTube. But the amount of, typing in and, to get this and record this is relatively simple. You go in, you click here, you type in a short description there. It's like one page, you hit the button, you add some invites, and after about 2 different windows, you're up and running. In order to do it their way, there's a bunch of windows you have to go through, and then you have to pause it at a certain point, then go over and get the Hangout going, and then come back and then start broadcasting.
Well, if I'm able to show up, I'll show you Zoom. One of the good things about Zoom is that if I share a screen, it doesn't bounce back and forth with the speaker.
But can you record on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Do other people need to have Zoom, or?
No.
No?
No.
Nice.
Yeah. If you searched in the Graphic Facilitation Forum, Averill and I did a conflict.
Oh, yeah. I was in attendance for that.
Yeah, well, that got recorded, and that's still up.
And that was done on Zoom.
That was done on Zoom, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
But Zoom is what, a $10 a month subscription?
Yeah, like $9 a month. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I'll talk to you later.
Very good, Mark. Thank you. Night.